Good morning, everybody. Your Excellency, the Minister, distinguished Assembly, distinguished young students, it's a privilege, a reward to be with you. Thank you, Jan and BRIGHTMED and all involved in organizing this beautiful week of events, your Gibraltar Festival, and also to open up to the students of the university and the various segments of the community to listen to people coming from far away. Far away geographically, but in this world of having all of us in a small village, connected, interconnected, so nothing is far away. And we'll try to talk to you from heart to heart. I was a child when first my parents were in jail. And I found out that they were in jail because of who they are. And who they are Kurds. It's a nation which is divided between Iraq, Syria, Iran, and Turkey, about 40 million people. And I am born in a city called Kirkuk, which is a very oil-rich city. It was the biggest oil discovery in mankind's history. And one of the Greek geographers mentioned this area called Kirkuk, and he saw that there is an eternal fire there, and people, and especially women, they were going there to pray for fertility, to get children. And they didn't know that one day this fire will become a source of burning them and their children and grandchildren as a result of greedy people who have different economic interests, and they divide nations and peoples and they put them in cages, and as a result a lot of people have to suffer. So my nation in Kirkuk suffered a lot because of, after the First World War, some powers came and divided our region. And yet 100 years after what they call it Sykes-Picot Agreement, yet problems of our region are not solved. I supposed to have a state of mind and to live freely in it. We didn't get it. And others were in the same situation. Nations were divided, languages were divided between different dialects, tribes, families were divided. As you once had to shout on this side of the border and showing your babies and the happiness to members of your family on the other side, so yet some of our families and tribes are divided and they have no means of communication because of the presence of walls, barbed wires, landmines, and soldiers of our neighbors. So I raised in an environment that I saw two things. One was very beautiful, that in my city there were different communities, Kurds, Turkomen, Assyro-Chaldean Christian community, Sabi'a Mandayan, it's John Baptist followers community, and Turkmens, they had Shia and Sunnah. There are two sects in Islam, like having Catholics and Protestants and so on, and some indigenous Arab tribes. But my relationship with all kids from these communities were very beautiful, until a government came to us and decided to bring settlers from elsewhere to our region and destroyed hundreds of our villages. And I saw in my eyes 5 of my family's houses were bulldozed down. And then when my mother was arrested because she was an activist and defending the rights of my people to have their own rights, they put her in jail. And she disappeared for almost a year. We found out later that she was heavily tortured. And I was a kid. I was put in jail with my father because he was a militant. And then we became the so-called IDPs, internally displaced people, refugee within our own country. And I saw what was happening to my people in terms of destruction. The use of napalm, phosphoric acid, all these chemical weapons, and the murders that took place on a daily basis in our region. That was an alarming clock that waked me up as a young person. I was 7 years old when this happened. I questioned why we have to go through this. What's wrong with us? Have we committed any crime? Why we have to be separated from our family, from our friends, and to live from one village to another and escape from one village to another, from one mountain to another, from one valley to another. So this was the start of my becoming in a process of raising my own conscience by questioning what is surrounding us and why we have to go through this. Then when I became older, I became a refugee again, but this time not within my own country, but outside my own country. I was 17 years old. And always when I asked my family, they said, because of 2 reasons that you have to suffer and to go through all this. One is oil, because your land is very rich with oil. And the second is it's water, because we have 2 major rivers, Tigris and Euphrates. And it's very important to the people downstream. So the upstream people, sometimes they use water to choke those who are in the downstream. They are very arrogant. The upstream was controlled not by us, but by Turkey. The downstream, we were in the middle, and Arabs came all the way down. Yet now there is a problem of water. And the water scarcity, which is also linked to the food security, I hope that it will not lead to another conflict. We have seen 20th century as a century of conflict on oil. I hope that 21st century will not become later on a century of war on water in our region. We have an enormous population growth in our region. We are about 400 million people in the Middle East, about 26 million of them are today refugees and IDPs, 16 million street children, 100 million unemployed, 90 million illiterated, 30% lives below poverty level, and a lot of people are deprived of both wealth and resources. And the wealth and resources are in the hands of few, maybe 5 to 10%, and it's not shared fairly. And that's why we have these conflicts. Besides that, we have the heritage, what we inherited from the colonial division, that still it's not healed. And nobody dares to review what they have done in the past in an honorable manner to solve the problems of today, and we are not doing enough to do that. His Excellency, the Minister touched upon the celebration and the embracement of diversity. Unfortunately, the mismanagement of lack of management in terms of diversity in the Middle East and in my country led to the creation of an industry of suffering and tears, a museum of crimes, many wars, many genocides. There is no solution than to respect the other who is different from you. And it's the responsibility of governments, ministries of education, of culture, religious institutions to teach the people of all generations how to respect, tolerate, and accept the other who is different from you. Different religion, different ethnicity, different confession. If not, we will turn this difference not to strength, not to unity in diversity, but to wars, conflicts, as it's the situation in my part of the world. And we spend our resources in buying weapons, and we have never solved any of our problems with weapons. We complicate it more, we complicate our relationship more, we bring more damages and destruction to our region, and unfortunately, the region is in a turmoil, and it has created many human sufferings and destructions that you see it on the screens of your televisions, and there are people who have taken a direction of being extremists in our region, inspired by the extremists in Europe and in the West, and vice versa. They live as parasites on each other. They create pyramids of fear on each other. I have to be afraid of you because you are different. You have to be afraid of me because I am different. I am a Shia, I am a Sunni, I am a Muslim. You are a Christian, you are a Jew. We all have to put aside phobias and isms. No xenophobia, no racism, no Islamophobia, no anti-Semitism would bring you peace, progress, and development in your society. We need to sow the seeds of respect, of love, of harmony, and together we have to combat those who are telling you that this and that person, because he or she is different, she shouldn't be or he shouldn't be among us. We live in one world, and the world, I was taught by my mom, that is a rose. Smell it, pass it to your next. And if you are not a rose, please do not be a thorn. So fight ignorance, and with education, you will succeed. And the difference, as Hafiz, an Iranian poet, used to say, that the difference between educated and non-educated are as the difference between a walnut and a cupola. Thank you.